Welcome to part 3 of the Getting Started with vRealise Operations mini-series. In this final episode, we'll finish creating our base policy. With our new custom policy telling vROPs which stats we want collected, I'll show you how the information differs from what you're used to seeing within vCenter. Lastly, I'll provide you some tips to get the most out of the product.
To recap, in part 2 we created a new policy called Horizon Server Policy that we then applied to our group of virtual machines we created in part 1. I'll now go back to the last section of the policy that we ran out of time to modify, except this time I've expanded the group that this policy applies to. It is now the base policy for an entire vSphere cluster. The membership criteria settings to do this can be viewed here. In our part 3 demonstration, I'll configure the capacity and time remaining section of the policy that will apply to our expanded group. I'll then show you how the information collected in vROPs differs from the information you can extract from the native vCenter views. We'll now edit our Horizon Server Policy by highlighting it under the Policy library and clicking on the pencil icon. Rather than modifying the settings that apply just to virtual machines, we will instead modify the policy that applies to the host and cluster level. Modifying the policy applied to these vROPs objects will make it possible to extract an overall summary of our environment when it comes to resource usage. With the policy in editing mode, add vCenter adapter-cluster compute resource by selecting it from the Show Changes For drop-down list, and then click the Show Object Type button. We'll now expand the policies associated with the cluster compute resource, and I'll enable editing by clicking the padlock to the right of Capacity Remaining, Time Remaining. Capacity remaining indicates the capability of your environment to accommodate new virtual machines, and time remaining indicates the amount of time that remains before an object consumes all of its resources. The first change I'll make to this policy is to remove the tick from Use Stress to account for spikes and peaks. The next thing I'll do is reduce the provisioning time buffer down to 15 days. This is a large enough lead time for me to get additional physical resource when required. The last change I'll make is to select Trend under Capacity Calculation. This alone should give me a more accurate representation of capacity usage in my environment. To keep this video succinct, I've already added and modified the policy that will apply to the vSphere hosts. Please note that the changes made are identical to what you have just seen. Now click Save, and we have now made all the changes required for an accurate base policy. A quick pat on the back is now deserved. I now want to take you through how vROPs differs from the views that you're used to using in vCenter. Firstly, we'll head to the Host tab within vCenter. This is a cluster level view that a number of end users base their resource utilization on. I can extract exactly the same statistics from vROPs by clicking All Metrics and then selecting memory usage and CPU usage of a particular host. You can see on the right hand side that the usage values line up with ESX4 on the Host tab. Therefore, the Host tab simply shows a current point-in-time resource utilization but doesn't take into account the impact of high availability or resource consumption trend. Straight away, it becomes clear that vROPs is going to be able to tell us a lot more about what has been and what is happening in our virtual environment. If we compare vROPs to the long-term performance data out of vCenter, then it's worth noting that after the first day's collection, vCenter averages its 5-minute collection points into 30-minute ones for the past week. It then averages these 30-minute points into 2-hour collection points for the past month's data. Therefore, if you're relying on the historical data extracted from vCenter, you're going to lose granularity in what you're investigating, especially when you consider that vROPs keeps 5-minute collection points for 6 months if you keep the default global settings. You should now clearly understand why you need vROPs running in your virtual environment. With the knowledge gained from this mini-series, you will be able to set up and configure vROPs to collect the information that you want to see from your virtual environment. If you'd like further tips and knowledge on how to get the most out of the product, then please click on the link below in the description. Alternatively, you can head to VMware's Hands-On Labs, which is free, and take the lab named vROPs Advanced Topics. Thank you for watching this mini-series. My name is Matthew Hurley. It's been my pleasure bringing it to you.